everyone, it's Katie here. We're going to do a inner conversation coach training video that is really in regards to how do we ensure our clients and ourselves are able to really feel into the state of being. Okay, so for example, let's say we're doing a coaching session and a revision session, and we can tell our client is maybe feeling anger or fear or, desire, maybe even grief or apathy, maybe guilt or shame, like those lower, states of being that we know from, the Live in the End sheet that we have, just the states of being. And if you do not know all the states, you really want to know these, okay? It really helps you in your coaching, it's going to help your clients, and you want to know what they feel like in your body. Like, you should be able to go through all the states of being, right? So shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire. I literally always have them printed out in front of me. Desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. You should know what each one feels like in your body first and foremost. The more you know it, the easier it is for you to direct and guide your client, right? And so when you can tell that your client is feeling this, and maybe they're in denial of it or they're very disconnected from their body, where if we're doing revision coaching and they're in a state of shame or isolation or something like that, they might not be willing to admit it at first, and that's okay. It's our job as a coach to give them a space where they can really feel. So here's what I suggest you do. Of course, you're always affirming and having the assumption that, yes, not only is it easy for me to feel the state I'm in and to move states, but it's easy for me to hold a space for clients to do the same. And I do find there is some truth to, and this is from one of my certifications, the more you're comfortable kind of feeling all the feels and all the different states, the easier it is for your client to access it as well, right? So if you haven't allowed yourself to really feel anger or shame or guilt, and, it's something that you've been repressing, I do find it might be more difficult, right, for you to identify your client feeling it, of course, because we can only see through our own lens of consciousness. And, the client feels, I feel far more safe and guided when we are able to go there and we understand it. Again, take what you want from that. That's my experience. All right. And so when the client is holding back, here are some ways you can kind of lovingly guide them into it to really feel their feelings and move the energy so they can move states, because we want to, in every coaching session, it's all about a state change. We're taking them from states of shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, into courage, into neutrality, into willingness, into the heart, essentially. My goal at the end of each session is that I can feel that they've moved through states. I can tell in their body language. I can tell in how they're talking, how they're breathing. And from the other conversations, they're now able to access, right? So here's some things you can do. Okay. So you would ask them to take a few deep breaths and coax them into their body, right? Just have them feel their feet on the ground. Have them take a few deep breaths and to feel and relax the stomach. To feel the legs. You can do like a body scan, walk them through the body, feel the legs softening, feel the hips opening, feel the belly soften, feel the chest open. If you go to any of my meditations, by the way, and the Manifest Together community, I do these walkthroughs. Have them feel into their fingers, into their arms, their throat. Usually we hold, especially with shame and guilt, I tend to notice like I'll feel tightness in my belly, feel heaviness in my heart, feel my shoulders clenching up or my jaw. And then as you really get them into their body, just have them locate it. Like, just tell me, in this current state, where do you feel sensation? Where do you feel tightness? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel it in their thighs? Do you feel it in, the neck? Does it have a color? Right, that's a great one. Does the state have a color? Does it have a texture? Is it soft? Is it heavy? Is it like really tight and cold, or is it warm? And so these are little questions you can use to help the client feel. A lot of times we also just go into the mind. It's like, well, I feel, and then we have a whole story, versus really guiding the client to get into their body and actually feel, right? Sensation. Do I feel a shortness of breath? Do I feel restricted? Do I feel weighed down? It's descriptions like this. And once you can really get them to feel into their body and communicate the state, right? Because they're not going to know necessarily that I'm feeling shame, I'm feeling guilt, I'm feeling apathy. That's really for you to kind of be like, oh, that if I'm feeling tightness in the heart, okay, well, that kind of feels like maybe grief or the apathy. And this is why as you move yourself through states, you'll understand more and more what the client's feeling. And then as you know, like what courage feels like in your body, it's going to feel a little different for your client. But again, you'll still be able to kind of just tell from their body language. You'll see them expand. You'll see them, the eyes will light up as they move states. And then you'll also notice, again, when they are restricted again, sometimes the fear will come back up. So it's really important during, revision coaching or any coaching, if you feel that it is like a restricted state coming up and maybe they're even kind of fighting you or denying things, the best thing you can do is always stay indifferent, stay neutral, allow the state to move, trust the process, right? Trust that you can bring them back into their heart. And we take nothing personally here, right? They're just moving through states. So again, to really get your client to feel, we use words like, what does your body feel like right now? Is it heavy? Are you in your body? Or are you just in your head? Right? A lot of times you'll find too, they're just in their head. So we're trying to get them back into their heart and into their belly, into their legs, open up the hips. Does it feel hot? Does it feel cold? Is it purple, green, blue? And once we move them back into this state of courage, into joy, into acceptance, I find it so important to hear them, express what it feels like in their body so they can memorize that state. So when you're in this state of love, where you're one with your person and you feel invincible, where do you feel it? Oh, I feel tingling in my fingers. I feel, my heart feels so open. My shoulders are relaxing. My jaw is now like totally free of tension. I feel my hips open. I'm even where's their voice coming from? Is it a lot of things I look for? Is their voice just in their head, or is their voice in their hips? Is their voice in their belly? Or even in their heart, you'll notice their voice and the volume or the tone of the voice changes based on where they are in their body. And I do find, those states of like courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment, the ones we're going for, the most expansive and powerful states. That voice is in the heart, it's in the belly, it's in the body. It's not just like a head voice. And so you can start to listen for that within yourself and then within your clients. And once they're in those like more expanded states, really allow them to say out loud, speak out loud. Where do you feel it? What's the color? We want them to memorize it. So they also know when they go to, practice revision on their own, when they're not coaching with you, they know what their own state feels like. Or if they listen back to the recording, they know what their own state feels like in their body. So they know how to bring themselves back there. They know when they're just in their head, they're in shame or guilt or whatever it is. When their heart feels heavy, they're in grief. And they know their real state, like who they really are and what they want to act from is the heart is full, the body's full, I feel really good and happy. So go through the states of being, any of the meditations I do in the Manifest Together community. I'll lead you through the states. Know what they feel like in your own body, take notes. And then, really trust and use those questions with clients to really help them feel, like learn how to really feel and get to know their states beyond just the story, right? And notice too, whatever story they're telling from each state, if it's from a state of like shame, you might have to like lovingly kind of cut them off a little bit, right? And write it down in your vision so you can keep moving states so they know that the state or the inner conversations in shame versus the inner conversations in like love or reason or joy, they're different conversations, and they're trying to occupy and normalize the ones of love, joy, and peace. And so as a coach, you might have to kind of like interrupt lovingly and set a boundary and be like, all right, that's the state of shame. We know what it feels like, what it looks like, but let's try another one. Okay. What would a state of joy feel like? And you want to get good at, right, whether it's bringing in their person to bring them into it, or just ask them, what do you want it to be? Another trick you can do is, like, let's say they're really stuck in a state. Okay. Have the client look around the room and just point out an object, right? Or let's say like a noise comes up, like a dog barks or something. You know, if your dog had some advice for you right now that would bring you into joy, what would their inner conversations be about your ideal state with your person? Or if they're like, I see a picture on my wall. Okay, what color is that picture? Oh, it's blue. All right, so if you were in a blue state, right, that, you know, again, gave you something you needed right now, what would that state say? What are the inner conversations in a blue state? And it sounds like very random, but it allows them to get out of their old state and their old story and the old nature, and their heart many times can then imagine something new, and it's usually exactly what they need to hear. So this is where you can help move them out of states, help them feel what they need to feel, but then to keep moving. All right, let me know if you have questions, and excited to hear, you know, how you all implement this with your vision coaching.